Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to have a short discussion on the story of India's financial sector. We will have a look at how India has grown to become one of the largest financial markets in this world. So let's get started. We can better understand the history of Indian financial sector by looking at its evolution over three different time periods. The early time period from 1700s to up to 1960s is characterized by a laissez-faire approach to financial markets when there were very limited amounts of control. The time period from 1960s to 1990 was the age of government control, where government controlled most of the India's financial sector, and from then on we went on the path of liberalization, and this has resulted in the financial sector that we know as on today. The first phase of the story begins in the early 1700s, and the approach that the British colonialist powers followed was laissez-faire, or simply leave alone, which basically meant that they left the natives, that is, the Indians, alone to fend for themselves, and there were hardly any rules or regulations in place. Pre independence, Indian investors had very limited amount of options where to invest their money. The first option was in banks, second option was in stocks, and the third was in insurance. The situation remained substantially same even after independence for a short period of time. We will see that in the later videos, but for the time being, let us assume that these are the three major options that an investor had. Let's first look at the banking sector. Some banks were established a long ago. In the first proper bank that we can think of came about in 1770, but it folded up in 1829. The second bank that we have a lot of information about is the General Bank of India from 1786, that also failed in 1791. So some of the banks that started out during that period of time could not make it, but fortunately there were some other banks which did very well. For example, we had three presidency banks, that is the Bank of Calcutta or the Bank of Bengal, then we had the Bank of Bombay, and then we had the Bank of Madras. All these three banks or presidency banks came about mainly to cater to the British requirements in those regions. These three were the major presidencies that British had established in 1600 onwards, and they were the major trading hubs for the East India Company and later on for the British government. So all these three banks were very major banks, and they eventually were merged in 1921 to produce what is now known historically as the Imperial Bank of India. This Imperial Bank of India was further consolidated and converted into an Indian government undertaking in 1955, which is even today working very well, and it is known today by the name State Bank of India. In addition to these banks, we had some other banks which survived for a very long period of time and are still going strong. First one is the Allahabad Bank, which started in 1865. Then we have the Punjab National Bank, which started in 1894. Then we have the Bank of India, which started in 1906. And we have the Bank of Baroda, which started in 1908. All these banks are still going strong. Allahabad Bank got merged with the Indian Bank in 2019, and the remaining three banks are all standalone banks and they are doing well even today. However, a major challenge that the government of pre-independence India faced was that there was no central bank or no reserve bank at all in the early parts of the 1900s, which meant that there was no central body which could regulate printing of currency or to decide the monetary policy. So eventually it was set up by the Reserve Bank of India Act of 1934, and this paid a lot of dividends in streamlining the decision making process and setting up the monetary policy for India. Reserve Bank of India is still the central bank of India, and it decides all the monetary policies and the details on how currencies have to be printed and all the other such details that are associated with the finances of this country. Stock markets also existed. The first stock market that came into being was in 1875 formally, and it was initially known as the Native Share and Stockbrokers Association. Then it changed its name to the Bombay Stock Exchange in 1875. In the early days, they used to trade, the stockbrokers used to trade the stocks under a banyan tree, which was just outside the Bombay town hall at that point of time. So, from very humble beginnings, the Indian stock markets started, and now the Indian stock markets, two major stock markets, including Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange, form two of the largest stock markets in the entire world. That is an interesting study. We will have a look at those in the future videos. However, at the time of inception, the business was very dull, mainly because there were very few Indian companies, and also because there was a lot of restrictions on how you could start a company, and mainly because the resources were also getting diverted to the United Kingdom, and indigenous manufacturing was discouraged. So there was not much of growth in the stock markets in the pre-independence era. Insurance firms also existed. However, they were still very poorly regulated, as with all other industries. The first uh, discussion about the insurance companies in India starts with Oriental Life Insurance Company in Calcutta. This is different from the Oriental Insurance Company that we see today. It folded up very soon. This was followed up by the Madras Equitable Assurance Society, which started in 1829. And the first proper act on regulating the insurance sector came with the Insurance Act in 1870. And in 1871, Bombay Mutual started. The Bombay Mutual story is very important, mainly because Bombay Mutual was the first insurance company which charged same amount of premium for both Britishers and for Indian subjects. Till that time, there was a lot of discrimination between the British residents and the Indian subjects. The Britishers had to pay less premium to get the same amount of insurance coverage when compared to Indians. However, Bombay Mutual started charging the same premium, and this was the first ever case of charging equal premiums for equal life coverage. This was followed up in 1974 by Oriental. 1897, we had the Empire of India Insurance Company, and there were a few foreign insurance offices as well. For example, Albert Life Insurance and Liverpool and London and Globe Insurance as well. They had their foreign offices in India, and primarily they catered to British residents who were in India at the time. Again, as I already told you, Indians had to pay much higher premium initially, but eventually things became better, and both Britishers and Indians were being charged the same amount of premium in the later days. In 1912, we had further regulation which came into being. The Indian Life Assurance Companies Act was passed, and government had more control over how the insurance companies worked and how they were able to take insurance, calculate premiums, and government got access to their data as well. In 1938, more stringent control was uh, affected. The government had more control over how insurance companies would work, and things became a lot more regulated. The number of players in the insurance sector was very large at the point of time about 1937 1938. We had a large number of players in the field. However, the insurance sector did not really take off due to some very important reasons. The reasons are the First World War, the Second World War, and the Indian War of Independence, and our independence struggle, as we call it. The insurance sector thrives in the times of prosperity and in times of growth. India was going through a lot of turmoil during the period of time that we are talking about. We had world wars coming in, which killed millions of people, not just the soldiers, but people died because of famines, droughts, non availability of food, non availability of medical care, etc. etc. So it was a bad time for an insurance company to be in the business, talking at it from only the finance perspective. So as a result, lot of insurance companies had difficulty arranging finance, and a lot of them folded up over a short period of time itself. And then finally, after a great deal of struggle, we won our independence. India was divided, and we came up with two countries, India and Pakistan. This gave us the right and the freedom to frame our own rules and to control our own destiny, and by extension, our financial sector as well. So, in the next few videos, we will be talking about how post independence financial sector in India evolved into what we see of it today. Thank you for watching.